Hey everyone. I know recently I mentioned that I had a big vision that I've been thinking about, and I promised to tell you more about it. And the more that I sat down to, do this video, the more I realized though that I couldn't just jump straight into the vision itself, because if I did, I'd really be kind of skipping the most important part, which is where it all began. So today I want to just tell you a story. It's actually about a cat who changed my perspective. And if you've been following me for a while, you may remember this cat. His name was Snow. I wasn't even actually supposed to see him on that day that I did. The room where the feral cats are normally kept is closed usually, but for some reason that day the door was open. And so when I walked past, I saw this cat just sitting completely still. He was pure white, but so filthy and matted that I knew he couldn't be well. And on top of that, he looked exhausted. I mean, he was almost catatonic. He didn't even move when I came close to his kennel. And so I remember walking in and just sitting near him, and I had an earbud in my ear because I usually listen to music while I'm cleaning the kennels and I sing to the cats. But the song that just happened to be playing was Love Will Find a Way by Pablo Cruz. So I sang it to him. And I remember sitting there with tears in my eyes, choked up, hardly even able to sing the song because the lyrics felt so just relevant to what I was seeing right in front of me. And I knew this poor animal must have been through hell. And so as I sang, I had this prayer that love would find a way for him, and that someday this beautiful creature would know warmth and safety and a loving home. And it turned out actually the next day I transported him back from the veterinarian's office after his wounds had been treated. They were pretty badly infected. The staff figured that he probably had been attacked by an animal because he was out living in the wild. And so over the next few weeks, I kept checking on him. The second week, he looked a little bit better. And you can see from the videos that I posted, actually, they were able to get him a little bit cleaned up. And he, when I sang to him, he actually growled at me a little bit, which oddly, I took as a good sign because it was kind of you could see that there was some fight in him, And so the third week, I came to check on him again, and he looked again a little bit better, and I was actually able to get my hand a little bit closer to him while I sang. I didn't try to touch him or anything, but I got as close as he would let me, and I just kind of followed his lead. So I'm thinking, wow, he's doing better. I'm getting really encouraged. Well, the following week I went back to see him, and I found out that he had been euthanized. And of course I was very sad and disappointed. But nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. It turned out that his medical needs were more complex than I knew, just being a volunteer. And as he started to feel better and get his energy back, he became more and more difficult to treat, more aggressive, while maintaining the safety of everybody involved. And, it was really tough to hear, but I realize as a volunteer, I only knew a small part of his story, and the veterinary team had information about his medical situation that I didn't. And I know from the people that I work with at the shelter that these are really, really difficult decisions to make, and they're made by people that I know care very deeply about the animals that are in their care. So definitely not to blame anyone. But even knowing all of that, something shifted inside of me, and I couldn't stop thinking about him. So after that, I really started learning more about feral cats and community cats, a term that I'd never even heard before, all of this. I learned about TNR, trap, neuter, release programs and managed colonies, and the pros and cons of all of these things. And I came to appreciate just how much work goes into helping these animals, just with the resources that are there today. But through all of that, I also learned that there are cats who just don't fit neatly into these options, right? Some are just not adoptable, or some can't be safely treated to the point of being adoptable, or the time it would take for them to become adoptable is just too much. And some are just not good candidates for returning outdoors to TNR programs. And even if they were, we also have to consider the impact to the environment that they pose, right? I mean, cats are not really a native species. We brought them here. And in some cases, the consequences of their presence can be really devastating to the environment, to native wildlife and ecosystems, but also to them. They're not really designed for this. They're the product of human domestication. They really aren't meant to live in the wild, certainly not here. And, this isn't because anybody failed them, or not because people don't care, but it's just that, there's only so many places for these cats to go, and even these systems have their limits. So I found myself asking a question that I hadn't thought of before. Like, what happens to the cats that just don't seem to have a place, right? The ones that are going to need a lot of time to learn to trust humans, time that most shelters just don't have due to limited space and resources. And then, what about the ones who never get to the point of trusting humans at all? Don't they still deserve to live in peace? So these questions were just kind of all rolling around in my head. And I started thinking, of course, about the possibility of a sanctuary for cats like this. And I, had heard about sanctuaries before, but for the first time, I actually started thinking about what it would take to create one in my area. And of course, I had lots of ideas about what it would be like and how great it would be. But then, of course, the reality sets in, right? Like, funding something like that is going to be a massive, ongoing endeavor, as it always is for things like that. And I didn't relish the idea of being at the mercy of pretty much constant fundraising just to keep this operation afloat, right? So all of these things are rolling around in my head. And then one day, I'm driving near my home, and I noticed a sign advertising 26 acres of commercial land for sale. And I'd driven past this sign like dozens of times, because like I said, it's near where I live. But this time, like, something just hit me like a bolt of lightning. My imagination just started running, and I found myself thinking, what if there was a place that was designed specifically for animals like Snow, but not a shelter, not a rescue, not a replacement for like any of the incredible work that shelters and TNR programs and things like that do, but something different. A place where cats who struggle to fit into these, other systems could simply just exist safely with the time and patience and environment that they need. And what if this sanctuary could exist alongside a wellness resort? At first, it probably sounds like two totally unrelated ideas, but the more I thought about it, the more connected they became. I mean, both are really about healing. A peaceful place where animals can certainly recover from trauma, but also a place where people can slow down and reconnect with themselves and with nature and experience the kind of healing and compassion that comes, it changes us from the inside out. So I imagine guests waking up surrounded by nature, spending time with animals at their own pace, being immersed in a space of peace and well-being, finding healing themselves also, while helping create a place where vulnerable animals can heal too, right? There's something about an energy of healing, it expands. And so in my mind, the resort wouldn't simply just exist beside the sanctuary. It would help sustain it, right? The people who come to find peace would also become a part of creating peace for the animals and sustaining that space, right? The funds that would be raised from the resort would go to support the sanctuary. So that was the idea. I don't know if something like this is possible. I mean, I know it's possible, but I don't know if it's financially realistic. I don't know what, would all go into this. I don't know what challenges I'd discover or whether, this dream would morph into something different along the way. But I do know one thing. I can't stop wondering what it would be like to make something like this real. So that's what this journey is about. I'm certainly not announcing that I'm building a sanctuary. I wish we're not there yet, but I'm not pretending that I have the answers, any of the answers at all yet, but exploring really just this question that one little white cat put into my heart. So over the coming months, I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to meet people who know lots more about this than I do. And I'm going to explore what might work, what might not, what would actually be required to make something like this possible, all of that. So, and if you'd like to come along for that journey, I'd really love to have you. Because whether this stays exactly as it is today or transforms into something different, I have a feeling that it's going to teach me a lot. And maybe it'll teach all of us something too. So if you like this idea, please like and subscribe to follow this little adventure and leave me a comment, like, what are your thoughts? Would you visit a place like this? Do you know someone who, or maybe do you have some expertise that could be vital to making this dream a reality? I mean, I'd really, really love to hear from you. Any comments at all. So please do leave me a comment. And again, thank you all for listening. Thank you for being with me. I know many of you have been with me for a long time, so I really, really appreciate you. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.